So we're just working through some questions that my students have had in webinars we've done this year. So this question is, how would they know that I'm a good thinker if I only am an undergraduate compared to someone with a PhD? I think this is with reference to a prospective employer. And I think this is in the context of looking at a CV and saying, well, I've got an undergrad job applicant and I've got a postgraduate job applicant, so somebody with a bachelor's or somebody with a master's or a PhD. And so I guess this question is saying, well, I could still be a good thinker even though I only have the lower level degree. And that is true. And you could say, well, I'm good at maths, but I chose not to do maths. So, one unfortunately is often measured by the ways in which you demonstrate your skills. So that's not to say that a company wouldn't have some competency tests to test ability independently of the qualifications which you present on your CV. So there could be your specific experience that they're very, very interested in, and they test for other skills or other entry criteria into that role in slightly different ways other than looking at degrees or qualifications, etc. I think the other aspect of this question is that there is an association between studying at a postgraduate level and being a good thinker. There's no doubt about that. Um, Studying at a postgraduate level teaches you to create knowledge, to expand our understanding of the world around us. And for that, you have to do a significant amount of complex thinking. You obviously have to convert that into writing. Um, and that's another aspect that I teach a lot in my courses. You can be the best thinker in the world, but if you're unable to put that into good writing, no one's going to know anything about your thinking. Um, even the great thinkers, Aristotle, Plato, the philosophers, I'm sure there were other great thinkers out there. Maybe they just didn't write it down, and we don't have those writings to understand their thinking. So, my message back to this person would be, well, the best way to solve that is go and do a PhD and show on your CV, independently of someone talking to you and assessing you in person, demonstrate through that qualification that you are a good thinker. And if you get a PhD as an international benchmark, top level academic qualification, you just have that entry criteria. As a you get to put doctor in front of your name if you really want to do that, and obviously earn that credibility. On the flip side of it, I suppose behind this question is also the perception that you could have someone with a PhD who's not a good thinker, and that, I guess, could be a possibility if if the PhD. It's very rare. I mean, the standards of PhDs and the sort of external examination protocols, etc., and the accreditation that universities have to go through to be able to offer PhDs is very stringent. So I would highly doubt that. I think we've established as a globally acceptable level of academic achievement that the PhD is right at the top in terms of qualifications. Obviously, PhD actually is only an entry criteria into a whole academic career. If that's what you want to do, you need to have a PhD at a minimum to become a senior lecturer and professor and head of a school in an institution, etc. So often a PhD is even the bottom rung of another ladder. So I wouldn't beat yourself up by not having a PhD. But there are going to be those perceptions, and it's the same. I mean, you could say, well, just because I don't have a degree doesn't mean I'm also not a thinker. So I could just have a school level qualification. But again, think about how the world works. Think about how the world rewards you and gives you something back for your contribution to the world. It may not be entirely fair in your view, but I've always said to my students, is it better to work through the system or against the system? And academics and the academic world and working through a series of ever increasingly more difficult academic qualifications is a well structured, well understood process, and sort of going against the system or coming at it from the outside. Um, if you've got the time and the energy, and that's you'll feel your calling, then fantastic. But with limited time and energy, my suggestion has always been to go through the system, go through the steps, earn the credibility of getting a degree or a qualification from your institution, and then that gives you your ticket to the game almost. That's your entry level criteria into the job that you want, etc. And look, always do a PhD for the right reasons. Um, and make sure that you have the right mindset going into a PhD. So to answer this question, they wouldn't know necessarily that you're a good thinker if you're at a lower level than someone with a PhD. It's just a simple fact of life. They may assess it, as I've said, through other means, but simple answer to this is go and get your PhD.